The Biden administration says that it is involved in intense negotiations trying to free the hundreds of hostages still held captive by Hamas. White House officials say they have a team on the ground that has been working on it for weeks, hour by hour, and they do remain hopeful. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Tracy, just last night at a news conference in California, President Biden said that Hamas wants to repeat what it did back on October 7th. Now, regarding the hostages still held, he did not want to go into details specifically, but says he's been deeply involved in negotiations and remains, quote, mildly hopeful. And today, administration officials offered more updates.
In California, President Joe Biden, attending the APEC conference, addresses a group of CEOs worried about their businesses. Many companies are now finding a vulnerable global economy as crises, including multiple wars, span the globe.
The choices we make are going to matter, it's not hyperbole to suggest, for the entire world.
Meanwhile, back in Washington at the State Department, an update on the hostage situation in Gaza. President Biden has resisted calls for a ceasefire, instead saying there should be pauses in the fighting to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian assistance and the potential extraction of hostages.
Simply, what's the latest on the efforts to get the hostages freed?
The Secretary has been engaged in it. Other members of the administration at the senior-most levels have been engaged in it, but it is just not a topic we find productive to talk about publicly in terms of details.
Earlier, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby described hostage negotiations as intense and ongoing.
Hopefully they'll come out the right way, and we'll have good news to talk about with multiple hostages getting freed. But we don't have a deal right now.
Back in San Francisco, fresh off his meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, President Biden had this exchange with a reporter last night.
After today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is a guy who runs a country that is a communist country that is based on a form of government totally different than ours.
China's foreign ministry called the comments extremely wrong and irresponsible political manipulation. But today, all smiles for the cameras as President Biden and other world leaders take a family photo at APEC.
The U.S. and China also agreed to combat illegal fentanyl and reestablish military communications. However, there are still deep differences on economic competition and global security threats. One positive sign: China will send the U.S. new pandas. This happening just a week after 3 from the Smithsonian National Zoo were returned to China. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.